These are the last three problems on the study guide for Algebra B for week 7 of quarter 3. So there's no test this week, just reviewing concepts that we've done in the past. So that's the height of a baseball after it is hit is modeled by the equation listed here, where x is the time in seconds after the ball is hit. Find the time it takes to reach the maximum height. So time to maximum height is always this formula, negative b over 2a. So all I have to do is substitute those numbers in, because the time always is on the x-axis. So it's on the x-axis here. Here's our time, and we're trying to find the axis of symmetry. And so the axis of symmetry formula is this negative b over 2a. So negative 144 over 2 times by negative 16. So we do some work there, and we end up with a 144 over 32, and the negative signs will end up canceling, leaving us with a 4. It doesn't go in there quite evenly, but 4.5 seconds. So if you got 9 over 2, that's what it reduces down to, and 4.5 seconds is the amount of time it takes for the ball to reach the maximum height. The height of a rocket can be modeled by this function, where x is the time in seconds. Find the maximum height. So maximum height, you do the same thing to start with. You do that x equals negative b over 2a. You have to find that first, and then you're going to substitute. So we end up with this negative 3,840 all over 2 times by negative 16. Do some work there, and we see that when we multiply, well, the 2 and the 16, we end up with 32. But it does go into this number evenly. So we end up with x equals 120. So we're going to take that 120 and we're going to substitute it in for these x's. Now the numbers look big, but there's a rule with this. Whenever we're trying to find the vertex, our y value, or f of x, is going to end up equaling negative 16 times by 120 squared plus 3,840 times by 120. Now again, when we do this, there's a rule, and the rule is that these two numbers are going to be opposite in sign, and one is double the other. So I see this is going to be our negative number, because we have 120 squared, and so I'll rewrite what I've got here. 12 times 12 is 144, and then I've got 2 zeros to add on there, and then plus, and then this number, we end up with a 3,840. We're going to multiply that by 120. And so when we do that work, we end up with this, after we multiply these and multiply these, we end up with this 230,400 feet once we do the subtraction. And so there would be our answer. And if we were to actually multiply these out, this is the number that would have been that negative 2,300, or 230,400. And this would have been the positive. Now this one would have been double this, so it would be a 4, a 6, a 0, and a comma, and then an 800. And when we subtract them, we end up with the same number, but positive, because this one is the one that's bigger. Well, the last problem here is asking us to find the time in which the basketball impacts the ground. So it's modeled by this flight path, so it starts 7 feet above the ground. It's going 54 feet per second initially, and then it eventually falls to the ground. Now we can't just double the time to maximum height, because it starts off the ground, so we need to factor. So we're going to set this h equal to 0, so negative 16t squared plus 54t plus 7. And so when I do this, I like to get rid of this negative sign here, so I'm going to divide by negative 1. And so when I do that, I now have 16t squared minus 54t minus 7 equals 0. And so when I do this work, I'm not sure what the first two numbers are going to be, but I do know the last two numbers need to be 7 and 1. Now, as I think about this, I need to get 16, one of the factors of 16, to multiply by 7 to make something really close to 54. Well, I remember that 8 times 7 makes 56, and that's really close. So I think I'm going to try 8t and 2t. You see, this makes a 56, and this makes 2, and those will subtract to make 54. Now, in order to make a negative, I put the minus sign with the 56 there, and the plus sign right here with the 2, 1 times 2. So when I do this work, so I know I've got the factoring done right. Now I'm going to find the two different answers here. So I'm setting them both equal to 0. So the 2t minus the 7 equals 0 as well. And then I just do opposite operations. So I'm going to subtract the 1. Got 8t equals negative 1. Divide by 8. We got one of the answers, negative 1/8. Over here I've got to add the 7 to all sides. End up with this 2t equals 7. Divide by 2. And we get the other answer. So t equals 7/2. So this would be 3.5. This would be a negative answer. So remember, you're going to get two answers. It starts off the ground, it goes up, and then back down. So we end up with one answer we want. That's our positive. That's the 7/2. This answer here is negative because it goes on the negative side, and that's the negative 1/8. So we'll go with this answer right here, and I'll go ahead and rewrite that in a decimal form or mixed number form. It'd be 3.5 or 3.5. And this is the time, so seconds. So there it is, 3.5 seconds. Well, those are the types of problems you'll see on the warm-ups this week.